Hi, I'm Dana Brigman. I'm a wellness educator for dogs and a dog trainer. I'm here to help you get proactive with your dog's health and natural wellness to save you money on vet visits, improve your dog's quality of life, and fully enjoy your well behaved dog. Over the years, I sought many answers for why dogs were struggling with so many behavioral and health issues. I found some amazing answers in nutrition and natural wellness. My goal today is to leverage every available modality to help us achieve long term results and a thriving, healthy, happy dog. Nothing brings me more joy than bringing a dog back into balance and giving that joy to his family. I'm Dana Brigman of the Canine Coach Carolinas. I hope you will enjoy this podcast series designed to help you learn more about nutrition, natural wellness, and behavior for your dog. Hi, these podcasts are for educational purposes only. We are not here to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any specific disease or illness. You are encouraged to do your own research and consult with your veterinarian or holistic practitioner regarding your pet's individual care. Good morning, everybody. It's Dana Brigman and Dr. Barb Fox. And I'll just let her spend a quick minute introducing herself. But I'm hoping that by now you're getting to know her extremely well because we've done several of these over the last few months. And I really appreciate her joining us and sharing her veterinary expertise as it relates to natural wellness and essential oils, which is the topic of today's discussion, getting really specific about safe use of essential oils. So Dr. Barb, welcome. Introduce yourself quickly and be sure to give your website.
All right. Well, thank you, Dana. It's my pleasure to be here again. I love these monthly calls because I love talking about natural health. So I am a 27-year veteran of the veterinary medical, the veterinary medical profession. And it wasn't until 2007 when I had my own health scare that I had breast cancer and chose to go a totally holistic route with my therapy and my treatment. And it was just an amazing journey. And so when I started getting healthier, like the things I had in my life, all my life, like fibromyalgia, severe allergies, 30 years of intestinal issues, and like hay fever, asthma, you name it, I had it. And I just thought, well, that's the way it is. And when I started using the natural therapies and alternative products to get my body healthy from cancer, miraculously, all of these other things fell off the wayside. So, and then I felt better than I had in 20 years. So I'm looking at how can I help my animal patients with these things. So I dove in and researched and went to every class, seminar, conference I could get my hands on. And it's just like, it's been a total change in how I practice medicine. Yeah. And I have also been using essential oils for 14 years now in all of my animal patients. And I can't really think of a case where I would not use them.
Right.
So that's kind of an abbreviated version of my career.
Well, I, again, appreciate your knowledge and your expertise. And I wish, and I hope that through podcasts like this or YouTubes or whatever it is you and I are doing, that there is more and more influence to not only the pet parent, but maybe to their, have conversations with their veterinarians or their groomers or their other pet professionals to say, hey, right, you all take a look at this. We're learning some things and this is the lifestyle I want for my dog. How can we bring those other pet pros into these conversations as well? So I'm glad you're doing this work. So today I want us to spend a little time drilling into the fear that we see out in Facebook and Google land about using essential oils. I think there are many people afraid to even try them. And I'll just, I see it all the time when I make a Facebook post. I made a TikTok post yesterday showing me dropping essential oils on my dog's back. And the caption that I wrote was, "Oh no, she didn't." And then I went drip, drip. And when it went, oh, yes, she did. And the first comment that I got back was, oh, no, you can't do that. Essential oils are toxic. Why are we hearing that? Where is this coming from the general population and even from other traditional vets?
Well, Dana, this is probably going to break this down into several segments. That's
Sure.
a very good question, because there are a lot of different reasons that could be, why you're hearing these things. First of all, you get a lot of people out there that never do their own research, and they just they take things that they've heard, or they've heard it from somebody else, or they've read it online on social media about, the toxicity of essential oils, and they believe it. They don't do their own research. And that is really, that just popped into my mind because I was going to start a whole different approach to this. But I encourage people to not just take face value for what they hear or read, and go out and find out, are they using, and this is the second part, are they using a quality oil? And this I cannot stress enough, because when I spoke at the Young Living Grand International Convention, oh gosh, what year was that? 2015, I believe, 2016. Basically, essential oils were just coming out. Young Living was just starting to promote like their Animal Sense line of essential oils and so forth. And so I did like a basic 101 class. And I went over safety, and I went over all of these other things. And I kind of lost my train of thought where he's going with that talk. So let me bring that back. We were talking
about doing the research, and we were talking about the quality.
Oh, yes, yes. So when I did my research for that presentation, I wanted to find out how essential oils were adulterated. And by what I mean by adulterated is how they are changed chemically or how they're processed. There are a lot of essential oil companies out there. And what happens is everybody wants a piece of the pie. And so they're going to try to produce an essential oil that in the cheapest way possible so they can make a good profit off of it. The problem is that we don't, as consumers, don't often know what goes in those essential oil bottles or where they're sourced from. There are a lot of what they call brokers, and brokers are just wholesalers that buy from, a market maybe in Egypt or some other country. We don't know the quality of those oils, and those oils just get slapped with a label on it and then resold to the consumer. The companies that there's actually only one company that I trust, and I've been with them for 14 years after trying different companies' oils when I first started out, and that's Young Living. And I guess the transparency of the company is what really drives me, because I was able to participate in 2 of the retreats. That you get to a certain level in the company, you get to go visit. Oh my gosh, I was blown away. And even being at the Grand Convention out in Utah, being able to walk out in the clary sage field and the lavender field and seeing that there's weeds out there because they don't use chemicals and they don't use machinery to cultivate the fields. So, I get to see firsthand. We could walk through the distillery and watch them distill. There's nothing that they're hiding. And so going back to adulteration, unfortunately happens in about 95% of the essential oils. Okay. And so you are going to pay for a good quality oil. The problem is that you will never know. There are some ways to know, but for the average consumer, there's no way to know what is being put in your essential oil bottle, because they can make this odorless, tasteless. I mean, not tasteless, but you won't be able to detect a different taste if you're taking them internally. When some of these companies say do not take internally, and that's that's a red flag right there.
Exactly.
But
I saw a bottle the other day at a client house. She's like, yes, I use essential oils. And she brought it. I'm like, let's read the label. And it was lavender, and it said not for topical use. And I said, that should be right. Exactly. I said, that should be your first warning sign. And she said, why? And I said, because lavender is one of the most beautiful essential oils for skin and repairing skin that we have available. And the fact that you can't put this on your skin should make you question what's in that bottle. And then I think we also have to say, and I'm sorry, I'm deviating out a little bit, but it just triggered a thought for me, is even if I just diffuse that, aromatic oil from that bottle, where are those particles going? Into the air,
Right.
landing on my
Yeah.
skin. My dog's picking them up from the floor as he walks through there, or lays on the blanket that all those particles landed on. And we inhale and breathe it, which is yet another way of moving it into our body. So those should be big red flags.
Right. And Dina, the thing that blew my mind was that there are 12 major ways that a company can adulterate their oils. And sometimes it's a chemical to, extend the life, like a preservative type of thing with the oil. Sometimes it is an extender to volume. It'll add more volume to the oil. And even in certain cases like Melissa oil. Melissa, if you guys have ever smelled Melissa, the common name is lemon balm. Melissa is an extremely difficult plant to grow. It has to have certain soil pH, it has to have certain temperature, certain nutrients, and Young Living has the largest, if you didn't know this, here's a little trivia for you. Young Living has the largest Melissa fields in the entire world. And so Melissa, a tiny bottle of that's going to run you about $180 if I remember correctly on that price. Maybe it's a little bit cheaper. I can't remember exactly what it is, but there are companies that sell Melissa for a fifth of that cost because they make it synthetically. They add different oils, make it smell like Melissa and look like Melissa, but it's not Melissa and there's no way it is Melissa. It's a combination of a lot of different things. And unfortunately, like I said, with the consumer, how are you going to know?
Right.
So, yeah. And so going on with this, you can see or hear the passion in my voice. I hope. I just get so irritated when people say, oh, I use this. I bought this because I saw it on Facebook, and they've had it all over Facebook, and they show me this oil, the name of it. And I'm thinking, okay, let's really see what this oil is like. And so sometimes I'll order some oils and compare it to my oils. There's no comparison. Yeah, and then these people are brainwashed into, they're brainwashed into thinking that they've got a pure oil because somebody said it was pure. The other thing is with a lot of people say, well, I don't see, if I don't see a label for organic, I'm not going to buy it. Well, did you know this, that if you have a bottle, let's say you have orange oil and you have a full bottle of it, by regulation, the only percentage you have to call it organic is 10%. So 90% of that could be a synthetic oil or nothing organic about it. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So when people say my animal was harmed by an essential oil, there's a real possibility if they're using a substandard quality product. And this is why I even created a course online, and I forgot to mention my website. It's Barb Fox, BARBFOX, DVM.com. Mm-hmm. And on that website, I have a class on essential oils for dogs. And I go over extensive safety issues and how to use them properly and how to diffuse them so an animal doesn't have any issues with that.
So how often do you see in your own practice or in what's published out in Facebook land something that is a true toxicity from essential oils?
Not very often.
Exactly.
But here's the thing. If an animal or a human, now this happened to me when I had the cancer scare, and I was told to be using essential oils, that word cancer puts a huge scare into everybody's mind. Right. And I was freaked out too. So I'm starting to use the supplements and the oils like crazy. And I went through a terrible detoxification reaction. And I say with an animal that has a certain issue, we have to start out kind of slow and build up tolerance to that, because essential oils help detoxify the body. They help detoxify the emotional baggage that's going on. And we all know, or we should know, that emotions and physical health go hand in hand. They're like tied together.
Yeah.
And what happened with me is I broke out in this rash all over my body. Well, it was a combination of some of the supplements that my chiropractor had put me on, and probably, using too many essential oils all at once. And once I slowed down the detox and my body built up tolerance to it, then, I can put on a ton of oils right now. And I like the smell of them. I hated the smell of every essential oil when I started, believe it or not. The same way happens with our animals, and especially horses are extremely sensitive. And I know this is a dog talk, but I'm going to give you an example. Horses often welt up on their spine when they're given oils on their spine. And usually those welts go away within 2 to 3 hours. It can also happen with acupuncture. When the body is releasing stuck energy, then you have all of these toxins that are built up in the body try to move out really fast. And that's what happens. So it's not a bad thing. But as far as reactions, the only reactions, Dana, that I've really seen is when somebody is using a cheap adulterated oil.
Right.
And I have seen those.
Yeah. I've seen dogs, when I do a Raindrop with them, have sort of that welt up reaction, or little red spots flare up somewhere. And the people are like, oh my God. And I'm like, relax.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Got it. And I'm going to come back to the Raindrop in a few minutes, because I think that's an important conversation, just based on the sheer number of oils we use at one time. But we've all seen the photo that came out, I guess it's been 2 or 3 years now, in January. And every January it circulates around going, oh my God, tea tree about killed my dog, right? You've seen the one. I know we've all talked about it, but people panic over that. And so we don't know what essential oil that particular person was using. Back when it happened, there was a lot of information flying about. And one of the things that I saw said that there was a lot of chemical work happening in the building that particular pet was living in. And that owner was diffusing tea tree oil so that she wouldn't smell the chemicals of the building. Wow. The construction work that was happening in her building. So that could lead to some serious problems. And I think it's important for people to understand we can't diffuse the same thing all day, every day. And I would like for you maybe to discuss what happens when we talk about diffusion and how that still can affect respiratory or skin, or drawing in those particles to the body. Is that question?
Okay. Kind of confused on what you're asking as far as diffusing. So, brains think differently.
So, when we diffuse essential oil, it's not air freshener. It's sort of the bottom line, right?
Correct. Right.
Essential oils can attach to other chemical constituents that are in our air, and allow us to maybe even breathe in more, or have more taken into the body, because the essential oil particles are so small. So not only were they most likely using an extremely cheap tea tree product, otherwise I think they would have named the brand, right? I mean, if it had been Young Living, that would have been plastered all over everywhere, right? And then there was also this compounded effect of used for multiple days in a row, with a lot of chemical construction happening in the building. So that can be a problem. All I'm trying to make people understand, the environment matters.
Right. And it's like when you have the chemicals on your floor, and the big pores on the bottoms of the feet of your dog, if they're walking across the floor, they're going to be absorbing those toxins, and then you put an essential oil on. So the essential oil's job is to get rid of those toxins. So you kind of have a battle going on inside the dog's body for a while. So this is why it's really important, and I'm glad you brought this up, that we have to think about green cleaning our home and getting away from those stinking chemicals.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, and going back to those issues, Dana, like that tea tree or any essential oil that's blamed on adverse, what we would call an adverse effect, oils get blamed a lot. And what's to say that perhaps it had the heartworm preventative the day before, it had the flea and tick just applied, and then somebody does a ton of essential oils that aren't, especially the ones that are adulterated and cheap, and then we have an adverse effect from that, or reaction, I should say. They blame it on the essential oil.
Sure.
And I've even had clients say, well, my dog's liver enzymes we just had our annual blood work done, the enzymes were elevated. Well, and they're blaming it on the essential oil that they either diffused or put on topically. How do you know that that was the oil that did that if you didn't have baseline blood work done previous to that? So, you know, there's a lot of factors to take into consideration, but essential oils are easy to blame.
Yeah, and for the record, and I'm sure you've seen this, I've seen us use essential oils and oil-infused supplements to get liver enzymes lowered to make
correct, right?
On the liver. Yes. So, Dr. Barb, why do you think people are more reactionary to an essential oil than they would be to a flea and tick product, or a new prescription given to them by their veterinarian, or some new product that shows up on the shelves at PetSmart and they're like, oh, I'll try this? Why are we more open to those things, in your opinion, than we are to something like an essential oil, when it's people like you and me who study this every day trying to teach them about it?
Well, Dan, I think a lot of it, and I'll try to be very courteous about this, but I think it's a lot of brainwashing done by conventionally trained veterinarians. I've even had veterinarians call me about, you know, like to see what kind of effects an essential oil would have, because they've had this client in, they've got a patient that has all these issues. They're trying to blame it on the essential oils, just like they do with the raw food. Okay. Yeah. And, you know, I even had a veterinarian tell a client that I saw that she was switching it from, she had been on, I'm not going to mention the pet food name. She had been on this very popular pet food, dry kibble. She put it on a freeze-dried raw diet, and the dog was doing very well. And then she started switching it back, and the dog developed gastrointestinal issues. And I said, why are you switching back from this good raw food back to the kibble? She goes, well, because the veterinarian told me that this was the only food that it should have. Mm-hmm. And I think this, what happens is people, you know, talk to their veterinarian or try to talk to their veterinarian about essential oils and get poo-pooed, or got they're what I'm trying to say, criticized for using the oils and told that they're not safe. Or again, like social media, you know, words gets out, and just because one, go ahead.
I've had that happen. I've talked to a number of clients about moving their dog off of some mid to very low quality kibble, or even some higher end kibbles, and into a raw or fresh prepared diet. And the vet's like, oh no, you can't do that. And then they come back to me and go, sorry, vet said. I'm like, oh my goodness, can I call your vet? Will they talk to me? I'd love to have a conversation with them about this. But yeah, I mean, it's really hard to overcome. And I think it's very hard for us to overcome the marketing on TV now, where we see new laundry soap or new air fresheners that now say infused with essential oil. Well, you and I know we don't want that stuff in our house, but it's being marketed so broadly, and frankly, so much, and in some ways very well crafted, that people are believing that that's okay. And I would be far more concerned about using those products than I would pulling out my bottles of essential oil for anything.
Exactly, Dana. And I think this is all client education. And some people will listen, some people won't.
Sure.
I just encourage everybody to think about when they put an insecticide on their dog or they give it that 3-month pill, do you really want those insecticides staying in your animal? In fact, one of the major companies on the topical flea and tick products years ago, when it first came out, told us veterinarians, don't worry about any systemic toxicity because the chemical stays in the top 3 layers of the skin, doesn't go anywhere else. And so when the flea or the tick bites, then the bug is dead, but it's not going to harm your animal. Well, then I had countless dogs come in after their monthly flea treatment and being sick. Maybe they'd be having some tremors or they had vomiting, diarrhea, and you'd run blood work. I was like, whoa, when did you apply this stuff? Well, 2 days ago. Well, yeah, here, your symptoms, your blood work is showing that there's a toxicity to these things. So then I'm thinking that company didn't tell the truth because obviously those chemicals got through the skin and into the systemic body. And yeah. But you have, and it just blows me away that a lot of clients will trust their veterinarians, and I don't mean to slam conventionally trained veterinarians. Many don't get it. They are told by these sales representatives that their products are safe. But anytime that you have a chemical that kills another organism, I don't care if it's a flea, a tick, or a toad or what, I mean, you have to think about what it's doing to your dog's body, especially if you give it every month all year round and it stays, and then every year you're doing this, you do 12 months. Where's the chemical going? Is it being excreted? Or is it building up in the body and it's causing issues?
Yeah. So, the other day that I shared in our group for the VMAA, a post that I had seen another veterinarian, a big name veterinarian post that said essential oils could be potentially toxic and named several that we should avoid. And included,
I haven't seen that post yet.
Oh, you didn't? I got
Not
into
yet.
an argument. I know it wasn't her. I know it was somebody administering her page, but they kept challenging the things that I was saying. And I just went right along and I said, yeah, I disagree with what you're saying. And here's why. But, but they named specifically tea tree, wintergreen, oregano, and rosemary as a couple of the ones that needed to be avoided, period, that they were toxic to dogs or cats. I mean, this page is not limited to dogs, but they talk about cats as well. And so we can bring in the cat discussion because I know a lot of people have cats and dogs, but why are we pulling out those oils? What are people seeing or thinking about that would name those oils as potentially toxic?
I wouldn't even use the term toxic.
Okay.
I would use the word strong. So when we think of oregano oil, and if you think about how when you use the spice oregano, and then we multiply that spice like 100 or 200 times, you can get the idea of how strong oregano can be. And if you get it on your skin undiluted, it can potentially cause some irritation. There are oils that cause irritation to the skin if they're not diluted. Now, by diluting, it does not change the efficacy of the essential oil. It just allows the body to absorb it at a slower rate so that the liver and other organs can process it easier. But this is really important with cats. When you brought cats up, I wanted to talk about that too. Yep. I've used all of these oils that you're talking about in cats, but at about an 80 to 90% dilution. And that dilution rate being that much, that weak, then it's not going to cause harm to that kitty if it's done properly. And my brain works a lot faster than my mouth, so bear with me, okay?
I got you.
Those oil, yeah, so there's oils like what we call, there are some oils that we call grass oils, GRAS, right. Generally regarded as safe, like frankincense, copaiba, lavender, And that brings me to another point about lavender, so don't let me forget.
Okay.
But the oils that are GRAS can be put on undiluted most of the time. I still dilute them with cats, just because cats have a different type of liver metabolize, or the way that they metabolize things, so their liver is different from other species. Or a tiny dog, I'd still dilute those out. But those hotter oils like clove, oregano, thyme, even basil to some extent, peppermint, rosemary, gosh, I'm trying to think of, cinnamon, even some types of eucalyptus, I'll go ahead and dilute those out fairly heavily so that the body has a chance to adapt to them before they start to work in the body. Does that make any sense?
It does. Can I ask you a question about your definition of dilution? Because I hear it used sometimes in a way that I think is not what we mean. Dilute.
So with water, you mean?
I'm sorry?
With water versus oil, you mean?
So if I take a drop of essential oil, let's say tea tree or oregano, let's do oregano. I take a drop of essential oil and I put in 10 drops of coconut oil, and I put that whole mixture on my dog. I've still put a whole drop of oil on the dog. I've just spread it out and slowed its absorption.
Correct. Right.
To me, a true dilution is I take a drop of oil, 10 drops or 9 drops of the carrier in a new bottle, get all that shaken up and synergized, and then I take a new drop out of that new bottle. So now I truly have 1/10 of a drop of essential oil going on to my animal. That's correct. How I dilute.
Yeah, that's correct.
Because I hear a lot of people, even Young Living educators and brand partners, who say, put a drop, put some carrier, and I'm like, that is still a whole drop of essential oil going on to your animal.
Yeah, and here I learned my lesson a long time ago, Dana, about putting everything in writing when I'm talking to people on the phone.
Yeah.
Back it up with an email, because I was working with a client that had a kitty with intestinal lymphoma, and I told her how to do a kitty raindrop, which is basically taking 1 ounce of your carrier oil and 2 drops of each of the raindrop oils and putting it in that mixture. And then I told her to put 4 to 5 drops starting at the base of the tail going up to the neck of that mixture. She called me the next day. She says, I think Blossom's dying. And I said, what's going on? Well, I put that whole mixture, she put the whole ounce of that. She put the whole thing. She blanked out, did not hear what I said, put that whole thing on that cat.
Oh, goodness.
And she had bathed, her husband had bathed the cat and basically was drooling and so on and so forth. But the cat never had any issues. It actually got a lot better after that. But what happened was that cat went through this
major detox.
Major detox. Yeah, what we call a healing crisis.
Yep.
Happened way too quickly. So I learned after that, I'm going to put everything in writing, so that she can't say, well, you never told me that.
Well, if you're like me, my brain writes the way I think. And so I assume I know what I'm talking about, but I don't always get the detail out on the paper. So, I can screw it up either way.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to tell you about, I had another, can I just interject real quick here?
Sure.
Yesterday I got a message from another holistic veterinarian that's in my Young Living group. And she contacted me. She goes, Barb, what am I going to do with these people? She says, I've got the, I get 2 to 3 emails a week about the ASPCA talking about how toxic essential oils are to cats, especially lavender oil. And I wrote her back and I said, Kim, I said, you know what? Let's handle this as an organization. And I'm talking about the organization that I am in, where we talk about 2 veterinarians and other lay people about the quality of essential oils applications and that kind of thing. Because here again, going back to the tea tree thing, I never did address that for you. Tea tree and lavender are 2 of the most heavily adulterated oils on the market. And this is what we're seeing is when animals have a bad reaction to one of those oils, they're either using it excessively and not, using it properly, or they're using those oils that are adulterated. And if you're using an adulterated oil, I'm sorry, there's no guarantee that your animal isn't going to get sick. So, yeah. Oh, I could go on for hours about that.
She's being challenged by the entire ASPCA of her region, saying, yeah, see, this is tough stuff for us to overcome. And I would love to see like VMAA taking that on, right? Really sort of putting a voice out there.
Yeah, I contacted the other veterinarians on the board, and we're going to see what we can do with that. That's because awesome. Yeah, our mission is to tell the truth and bring about accuracy, safety, and that kind of thing to the public as well as other veterinarians. Yeah. And if we have to come together as a group or gang up somehow on the ASPCA for saying that, we're going to do that.
Or the
they don't talk about.
Or the vet,
Go ahead.
That I was telling you about that's posting out there, you can't use these essential oils with dogs. I'm like, or cats or animals. I'm like, you're killing me, people.
Yeah. Right. But we can do that 3 month. We can do that 8-month flea and tick collar. We can do that 3-month flea and tick pill. And don't worry about it. It's fine.
She's very much about, I guess you would say holistic. She's very much about food and, getting rid of those products and tighter testing and all of that kind of stuff. And so it just shocked me that she has not really learned the right information. And again, I know that whoever made that post was not her, but somebody on her staff, but still we need a voice. And people would say, I don't have positive mindset when I'm about to tell you what I say, but as a trainer, my voice against hers is not going to add up, right? But if I can get my 3 DVMs like you and the others we're talking about to come out and say, hey, wait a minute, then we can have a conversation about this.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. So even going back to like tea tree, people say, oh, tea tree's toxic. And I'm like, well, first of all, I don't use tea tree as a diffusible oil. Could it be? Yes. But I tend to reserve it for use around my animals when I have some sort of skin condition that needs help. And then I use it in a diluted way for a few days, and then I take a break, and then I maybe go back to it. But I have many choices to choose from.
Exactly.
And I can rotate some things around. I know not everybody has that many varieties in their first aid collection, but if we were going to bring tea tree in, or oregano or wintergreen to use for the proper intention with dogs, what might be sort of those protocols or best practices to implement with those animals? Is it
I think it's
a few days and a break, or what do you suggest?
That all is an individual thing, Dana. I mean, if you've got a dog with some kind of coagulation problem, meaning that they don't clot their blood correctly, you probably want to avoid wintergreen altogether, because wintergreen has the naturally occurring salicylate, which is the blood thinner. I mean, it's aspirin. It's the natural aspirin, and we know that aspirin thins blood. So we want to be, we want to be cautious, and this is where education is so important. If we're going to treat our essential oils as something that we do to augment their health, we must be aware that there are certain oils that we probably would avoid. Rosemary probably shouldn't be used in seizure dogs, with any kind of seizure activity. It can be used, but again, like you said, let's choose something else first. Mm-hmm. And in my practice, I've used essential oils that shouldn't be used on cats, or they say not to use them on cats, let's put it that way, unless you heavily dilute them. I put them on undiluted in a case where I was trying to save the animal's life. Right. And because of whatever else I did not have, or the client didn't have enough money for the condition or the traditional treatment, and I had the essential oils there, and I knew I could use them, I would use them if it was a life and death situation where I have nothing to lose by trying.
Yeah.
If I, yeah, I mean, it's not a one size fits all thing. I can't say, yeah, we're going to use these for 3 days in this animal, and then we're going to quit and do the same protocol for it all depends on their medical history and what's going on.
Okay, fair enough. And so if we talk about the Raindrop, for example, that's a collection of 9 different essential oils, right? Mm-hmm. And generally we use them neat, or like you said, in a cat, or maybe in a puppy or a very small dog, we would use some diluted version of each of those oils, or maybe I know the kitty Raindrop calls for them all to be added together and then diluted. Mm-hmm. But let's take my dog Poppy, who's about 50 pounds, right? And we're going to do a Raindrop on her. I tend to do I'm thinking about the protocol, grabbing the oil and going around their feet. So that might be 1 or 2 drops of each oil hitting the feet, and then a couple of drops up the spine. That adds up to a whole bunch of essential oils. And people sometimes go, wow, I've always heard go low and slow, or you shouldn't use it neat, and you shouldn't use a whole drop, and all of that kind of stuff. Why is it so effective in the Raindrop, and to allow us to use so many oils and to use them in a neat way?
Well, I think, Dana, when Gary Young developed this, or he didn't develop it, he perfected this technique. It was a Native American technique. The Lakota Indians did this for healing. And Raindrop means that ideally, now let's leave cats out of the conversation here. We've got Poppy's 50-pound dog. And you're going to be using these oils on the spine. You're going to be dripping them a couple inches above the spine. The whole theory is that you energize the oil even more when you're in that aura, and the oil is coming through the animal's aura and then hitting the skin or the fur. And then using these specialized like feathering techniques or VitaFlex technique to work the oil in more energetically into the body. So it all, I think, depends on the animal, at least in my practice. For example, I've got an extremely itchy dog. Maybe it's got some open lesions on it. If I'm going to do a Raindrop, I'm going to stay away from if there's any lesions on the back, I'll intentionally not drip the oil right on that. And they're probably going to be diluted out, not getting on undiluted. But like with Poppy's had oils on for a long time. Is it he or she?
She.
I'm sorry, she?
Female.
He. She, thank you. My Zoom cuts out a little bit and then I can't hear. So she is not going to have those oils diluted because she's already used to it. If I'm doing a Raindrop on an animal for the very first time, oftentimes, even if I don't think there's going to be an issue, I'll go ahead and make a strip of oil, carrier oil, right down the spine, and then drip the oils on. Now, another higher up with the company says that you should put the oil on first and then put your strip of carrier oil. I just kind of go with my guts, and usually my guts are right. So there's really no right or wrong way to do it. And even sometimes if I've got a specific issue that I want to have that Raindrop focus on, I'll substitute perhaps like marjoram. If the dog doesn't have any pain or any muscle issues, I'll substitute more copaiba, maybe even some frankincense in there.
Right.
So it's not a cut, thing. But going back to those 9 specific oils, the first 3, oregano, thyme, and basil, are the ones that are kind of your foundation, and you never want to leave those out, because what those do is they clean, they repair, and they cleanse the cells, they repair the DNA, and then restore the DNA how it should be. So, and
those oils, and I love that you're talking about this. This wasn't intentional, but I like that we flow into this. Those oils are our phenols. Yes. And so people will start to hear that term as something to be aware. Oh my God, you can't use phenols, and that's just not true. So, I'm sorry. Continue with the cleanse and the repair stuff. Yeah.
Well, I was pretty much done with that. Those are your foundation oils, and then you can use your sesquiterpenes and your monoterpenes for different things. I think of sesquiterpenes as being the calming oils. So you can even do an emotional raindrop if you have an animal that's extremely anxious, maybe is fearful. We can use these oils in that same fashion as we would use those physically to release some of the baggage that these animals are carrying around. I mean, you think about all the rescues, and you see this all the time, I'm sure, in your training practice, that you've got a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, a lot of aggression. And if we can help these animals with those essential oils, it's a win-win for everybody. Yeah. Which brings me to one more point, that we, as our animal moms and dads, need to be taking care of ourselves, because our animals, especially dogs, mirror us. And if we don't take care of ourselves, they cannot fully heal. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
It does, absolutely. In fact, I have that conversation often with people, and sometimes it's hard because you know what you see, or you know the people, and you're like, okay, I can't really get into diagnosing. I can't diagnose anybody, but it can't make it feel like it's about them, right? And so you have to say, your dog, and you just, is he potentially picking up on some emotional something? Just sort of lead them. And then the light bulbs go off, and they're like, oh my God, yes, I've been under so much stress.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's so true.
But you have to gently, or at least I do, especially when we're talking about training and nutrition, because the conversation really needs to be about, hey, what's going on with you? Right?
Yeah.
And they don't always see that. So yeah.
Yeah.
So Dr. Barb, are there any oils? We know the adulterated, I jokingly say the cheap ones, but are there some essential oils that you and I can use that we just simply should never use for our pets?
Boy, I can't think of any oil I've not used on an animal. I mean,
and I know there's some oils out there in the world that are not even within our brand that, that the plant itself might not be appropriate for people to use unless it really is under medical care or things of that nature. And so even on I was looking for my, the blog that I created, we talked about things like, let me see if I can find it. I had it up. I know I had it up. Well, this is what happens when I multitask. Because I was looking for the phenol sesquiterpene stuff. So there are some oils that I've heard, we don't use them. We don't have them in our list or on our products, but bitter almond, something called Boldo, chinopodium, garlic. I didn't even know garlic had an essential oil, right? I mean,
I don't think it does.
Yeah. So
does it?
I don't know. I've never seen it. But
no, I don't think it does.
One that I saw listed somewhere. I'm like, well, then, yeah, we definitely shouldn't do that. But
pennyroyal is another oil.
Yeah.
Penny oil.
And so then we
pennyroyal.
Yeah. Something like juniper wood, which is not the same as juniper berry. And so people get confused about those. Pennyroyal, Santolina, sassafras, tansy, which is not the same as our blue tansy. It's not the same. Mm-hmm. And so basically what I say is if we don't offer it, if it doesn't come from Young Living, just period, don't use it, right? Just
correct. I totally agree with that. Yeah.
And so then there's some, just like we talked about, maybe to use with a little caution because they are hot, that strong term you used. But we find them in our blends quite often, like anise being in digize. And I have used countless bottles of this. And I'll give you an example. I was on a call talking to an animal communicator a couple of weeks ago about changing her dogs to the Volhard diet. And my little guy was uncomfortable. He's about 18 now. And he was just uncomfortable. He wasn't settled on the couch. He wouldn't settle on the floor. And I picked him up and was holding him. She said, I think his tummy doesn't feel good. And so I stopped and thought, and I'm like, well, why would that be? And I realized he had not eaten his breakfast that morning. And I gave him extra food at supper. And so I really think it was just too much volume. So I put Digest on his belly, and within seconds, he was out like a light. But
isn't that crazy?
He picked up on it. It made sense to me. I took action, and with an essential oil, and out he went. So anise is in Digest. Camphor is said to be one we should use caution with, and yet it's in
That's
Valor.
In Valor.
Exactly. Yeah. And how much Valor do we all use? All the time, right? Clove is in Thieves. Oregano is, and Thyme and Basil in our Raindrop collection. Ruta is in Teaway, and I've used countless bottles of that.
They say that that's on the do not use list.
Be Ruta? Very careful with, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Never heard that one.
Yeah,
that they would do that.
And then we've already talked about tea tree and wintergreen and that sort of stuff. So, is there more in this topic of, helping people overcome their fear of toxicity and moving into safe use of these essential oils that you would like to add or that we haven't brought up yet?
Well, sure, Dana. I encourage people that are listening to check out that course that I mentioned, Essential Oils and Dogs. Great. It's on my website, barbfoxdvm.com. It's for purchase, but you have lifetime access to it. And I go through a lot of details on the safety and how to diffuse properly. And there's actually dilution rates in there. And then, certain conditions that you would use essential oils for. And I think that also there are essential reference guides like the Animal Desk Reference. I shouldn't say that because there's a competing book from a different company that talks about the Animal Desk Reference, but it's the Essential Oils Animals Desk Reference by Life Science Publishing. So the website to get that, you have that book right there? Awesome. And the website for that is discoverlsp.com. 12 veterinarians wrote that book. So there's a lot of good information in there. Also, I would encourage people to join the Veterinary Medical Aromatherapy Association. That even though it says veterinary in it, you do not have to be a veterinarian to join that. We have monthly Zoom calls, plus a lot of good information. And then you can also, I believe, get discounts on some of the conference registrations. I'm not sure on that. I'd have to check on that. Right. But the main thing is to do your own research. And here, Dana, I'm just going to go over a few things that when I'm scrutinizing the essential oil company, here are some of the questions I ask. Can you call the company and talk to a person? Can you get your questions answered? Or do they take your number and promise to call you back and then never call you? Do they have veterinarians that are using these products and will share the information with you? Does the company own their own farms, or do they even know where their oils are sourced? And I've done this. I've called a few other essential oil companies and said, where do you source your oils? Well, we get them from many different countries. I really don't have an answer for you. Okay, click. How long has the company been in business? Young Living's been in business. I believe this would be their 27th year. A company that's been in business that long has products that are good. Otherwise, they're not going to be in business. Okay. And then, are there reference guides? Are there resources put out by that company that you can, or I shouldn't even, let me rephrase that. Would they recommend resources to you that you might be able to check out? Okay.
Right.
And if they can't answer those questions, I think those are just basic questions, especially where your oil's coming from. That's a red flag for me, big time.
It triggered a thought for me, and I'm not even quite sure how to say it without saying it. But I'll try.
Okay.
I think intention and integrity of the company and the people running that company is incredibly important. I
Yes.
know of a particular brand of essential oils for animals that I find a lot of questionable energy and
Yes, I
behavior
agree.
that makes me very uncomfortable with that particular brand. And so I feel my skin tingle when I talk about it. I don't know what happens to me. It's sort of this energetic thing, but essential oils are all about energy, right? They're all about the frequency
Correct.
of energy.
Mhm.
And if we are putting this negativity wrapper around it, I don't believe they're going to be as beneficial as they could be, even if they were pure oils to start with.
That's so true, Dana. I'm glad you brought that up, because I remember at one of the retreats that I went to up at the St. Mary's Farm in Idaho, Gary Young, who when he was still alive, he's been deceased for several years now, but when he was alive and in good health, he came and talked to our group, and he told us a story. He had some workers that were out there doing some hand cultivating in the field. I can't remember if it was the lavender or whatever field it was in. Anyway, these workers were fighting. They were squabbling between them, and Gary Young heard them. He walked out to the field and he said, "Go home." He fired them on the spot. He said, "I cannot have that kind of energy in my plants." That's how diligent Gary Young was. I just got goosebumps when I said that.
Me too. And
Yeah.
I wasn't even there. And when this happens to me, I think, why does this happen? But I know it's all about the frequency and the intention of it all. Yeah.
Yeah, and when people would be able to go to the farm, he'd say, "If you're in a bad mood, stay in your room. Do not come down to the field. I cannot have that energetic negativity in those plants." And even the boys, Jacob and Joseph, would come out and they would sing to the plants.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, how cool is that? But that's why Young Living, to me, is set off apart from the others. Now, I want to just say one little disclaimer sentence here. Going back to the VMAA, you don't have to be a Young Living member to join that organization. Right. We are totally non-branded. In fact, in our Zoom calls, we do not bring up brand names of anything, even the oils. If it's a blend like Valor, we don't say Valor. We'll talk about the individual oils in that. But that is because we want people to come there, feel comfortable to talk about essential oils.
Yeah, exactly.
And It's only $80 a year, guys. So if you want to join, you can check out.
Yeah, for a lot of education. So I think it's fantastic. Well, Dr. Barb, this has been awesome. I think we should do less pre-planning more often because when we just have a good dialogue, I think it seems to be better. At least I hope the
this is a topic
viewers find it more entertaining.
Yeah, well, this is the topic that's really near and dear to my heart. Exactly. And I've been doing this so long. I take it for granted that people already know what we're talking about. And then they realize, no, I was there at one time. I didn't know. Right. I did not know anything. Yeah. So this is a great opportunity. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for participating, and we'll pick a new topic for next month and we'll do it again.
All right. Sounds great.
All right.
Bye. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. Anybody listening, Dr. Barb or I will be happy to help you get started with essential oils. If you need to do so, we are here.
Well, I'll defer that to Dana. She's my, we need to contact Dana. I'm here to help, but okay. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dana Brigman of the Canine Coach Carolinas. You can find me on the internet at caninecoach.dog. That's letter K, number 9, coach.dog. You can also find me on Facebook at the Canine Coach Carolinas, or in our group that is designed to teach dog mamas just like you more about nutrition, essential oils, homeopathy, and other areas of natural wellness. We want you to learn all that you can to keep your dog happy, healthy, and thriving. I hope to see you in our group soon.